ABBA. Just say the name, and you can probably already hear a song in your head, right? We're talking about a true global phenomenon, one of the biggest selling bands in the history of music. But behind all the glitter and the ridiculously catchy songs, there's a fascinating story, a story about a perfect formula for success. So, what was that secret formula? I mean, how did four people from Sweden create this sound that just completely took over the world? And, let's be honest, is still captivating us decades later. Well, that's what we're here to do. Let's dive in and crack the ABBA code.
Okay, so our investigation is going to start with the most basic thing about the band, their name. It's super simple, totally iconic, and it actually holds the very first clue to their whole structure.
That's right. ABBA is just an acronym, one letter for each of the four members' first names. But, this wasn't just some clever marketing thing. It was basically a statement. It represented this perfect four-part harmony that would become the absolute foundation of their sound.
So let's meet the four people who made up this formula. See, the band wasn't just four random musicians. They were famously made up of two couples. And that dynamic, it created this incredible chemistry, both personally and creatively. It's what fueled those joyful early hits, but it also gave their later songs this really powerful, sad depth when those relationships started to break apart.
And here they are, Agnetha, Björn, Benny, and Anni-Frid. The A, the B, and the A, that's your ABBA. Their lives were all tangled up, and that shared musical vision they had, well, it laid the groundwork for absolutely everything that was about to happen. Their rise to the top wasn't instant. The whole idea for the group really just sparked on a vacation back in 1970. Their first try at the huge Eurovision contest in '73, singing in Swedish, well, it was a flop. They didn't even qualify. But they learned something huge from that. The very next year, they came back with Waterloo, sang it in English, and they won. That single victory was the rocket fuel for their entire global career. Okay, so winning Eurovision put them on the map, but what kept them at the top? That came down to their completely unique sound. And this brings us to a really cool technical part of their formula. They worked with their producer, Michael Tretow, to pioneer something they called the wall of sound. Now, this wasn't about recording each part one by one. The whole point was to create this massive, dense, layered sonic experience by recording pretty much everyone all at once. So just how different was this? Well, think about it. Traditionally, you record the drums, then the bass, then the vocals, all on separate tracks, and mix them later. But with ABBA, they got everyone, all four singers, all the musicians, in the room recording at the same time. The goal wasn't separation, it was total fusion. And the result of this was just wow. Agnetha and Anni-Frid's voices blended so perfectly that a lot of the time, you couldn't even tell them apart. They sounded like one single, incredible instrument. It created this unified, thick sound that was just pure pop. It was so rich, and it sounded like nothing else out there. So they had this amazing, one-of-a-kind sound. But that's only half the story, right? For a band to get that big, their music has to really connect with what's going on in the world at that time. Which leads to a big question. Why did this particular sound hit so hard in the 1970s? You have to remember what the 70s were like. It was a really turbulent decade. The world was dealing with the fallout from the Vietnam War. There was all this social change, political chaos. There was just a lot of tension in the air. And that's where this little piece of music theory becomes so important. ABBA's music is almost completely consonant. All that means is that the harmonies are stable, they sound really pleasing, and there's no feeling of tension or what musicians call dissonance. It just sounds nice. So here's the absolute key takeaway. For an audience that was feeling completely worn down by all the conflict and chaos in the real world, ABBA's music was an escape. Their perfectly structured, tension-free pop wasn't just catchy, it was a genuine, honest-to-goodness relief. And the real proof that this formula worked? Well, it's the fact that it's still working. Decades after they stopped recording, the whole ABBA thing is arguably bigger now than it has ever been. And man, did that formula deliver back in the day for 8 straight years. 8 consecutive years. From 74 to 82, ABBA was just constantly at the top of the charts all over the world. It was an absolutely incredible run. And the magic didn't just stop when the band did. Not even close. Just think about the insane success of the musical and the movies of Mamma Mia, all built on their songs. An entire new generation fell in love with ABBA, not from the radio, but from a movie theater.
And they're still innovating, even now. The Voyage show that's happening in London uses their classic recordings with these stunningly realistic holographic avatars of the band. And guess what? It's a total smash hit. It proves that their music connects just as deeply with people today. Which kind of brings us full circle, doesn't it? From the technical genius of their wall of sound to literally providing comfort to a world that needed it. ABBA's formula was pure pop perfection. It really makes you wonder, what is that magic ingredient, that perfect mix of harmony and happiness that can make a simple pop song last forever?